First, I will introduce our speakers. Associate Professor Dr. Norhayati Mohamed, Deputy Director of Postgraduate and Innovations at Accounting Research Institutes, ARI. So I will read a little bit of bibliographies of Associate Professor Doctor, and she is a lecturer in accounting and done research and produced writings in the areas of dividends and governance. In addition, she was also the managing editor for the Malaysian Accounting Review and internationally indexed journals. At UiTM, she also held posts as head of strategy planning on operations and strategic information management. She is currently the Deputy Director of Postgraduate and Innovations of the Accounting Research Institute at National Higher Institution Centre of Excellence, High COE, or we call it ARI. And Dr. Norhayati involved in research to analyze the performance of public universities, holding companies and their subsidiaries, a project commissioned by the Ministry of Education through the ARI. Besides, she also the head task force for the committee to study the education policy of Malaysia and appointment by Minister of Education. So that's a little bit of write-up about Associate Professor Dr. Norhayati. So without further ado, I think I give the floors to doctors. So you can start your presentations now. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Siti Hajar. So I assume that everybody can hear me, Dr. Hajar. You can. I need to communicate with you, yeah.
Yes.
So I will start my presentation. So I will ask you also whether you can see my presentation. Okay, can you see this, Dr. Siti Hajar?
Yes, clear.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So as was mentioned, my talk today, this is like a sharing session, something that I am passionate about that I would really like to share with everyone. This is on the development of a financial sustainability model for public universities in Malaysia. Now, I also need to establish some context here. I was also at the Ministry of Higher Education for 5 years, and that was from the year 2013 to 2018. And I had the chance to be involved in developing the Malaysia Education Blueprint. And the topic that I'm covering today is actually one of the shifts in the blueprint, and therefore I would really like to share with you what it is about. And also this shift is related to research that we are currently doing at ARI, Accounting Research Institute, for the for the Ministry of Higher Education. All right. So the objectives of my sharing session today will be talking about shift number 5, financial sustainability of the Malaysia Education Blueprint 2015-2025, higher education. And I would like to relate that to the current project that ARI is doing with Ministry of Higher Education. It's the new funding model, and is also evaluating the performance, the financial performance of public universities in Malaysia. And last but not least, I think we cannot stop the discussion by not discussing what will happen financially. Will be able to be financially sustainable post-COVID-19. All right, so some discussion there. All right, so this is the Malaysia Education Blueprint. There are actually 2 blueprints here, because if you were like to Google the Malaysia Education Blueprint, you might get this one, which is actually the blueprint for the preschool to post-secondary education. So it's for the school, and here is for higher education. So we created, or we developed this blueprint at the time when the 2 ministries were together for the second time. So as you might be aware that the Ministry of Education has been together and has split for 3 times, and finally we are together again. Yeah. So I was almost involved, I was almost there in the ministry when the split happened, the combination happened, and the split again, you know. So we actually, the Malaysia Education Blueprint for Higher Education, it was really developed is about 2 years after the Malaysia Education Blueprint for the preschool to post-secondary education. And we really streamlined the planning from the school to the higher education. So we really felt that this blueprint, the two blueprint really were synchronized. You know, they jive together so that whatever that we need to achieve in higher education, it was already addressed in the blueprint for the preschool to post-secondary education. So if you Google it, you know, make sure you get both blueprints, you can go through them. And I would like to stress that the outcome that we really focus on for our higher education blueprint is that we want to have learner values-driven talent. Yeah? So we want to have that balance, the holistic, the balance of the graduates. And we do not use the term human capital in the blueprint because human capital sounds so like detached, you know, like is without, is like it's void of a soul. So we use the word talent to describe our graduates and also the people, the staff, academic staff, administrative staff that are involved in the ecosystem of a university. So the outcome that we want from the higher education blueprint would be learner values-driven talent. So there are 10 shifts here that try to achieve that. All right. Moving forward. So in terms of expenditure on higher education, this slide is also in the blueprint. As we can see, Malaysia, among the country that we chose here, is actually the highest in terms of higher education expenditure. Our government actually spent about 7.7% of the annual budget on higher education. The 5.5% is the budget that is actually given to the Ministry of Higher Education. So 5.5% of our country's budget is given to the Ministry of Higher Education, but government also spends some amount on higher education through other agencies or other ministries. In total, the expenditure is about 7.7% of Malaysia's annual budget. So that is quite high, and especially compared to our compatriots in other countries. For example, Singapore, 6.4%, 6%, and so on and so forth. Now, looking at a more current situation, here is a ranking that is measured by Universitas 21. It's called U21 Report for 2019. It ranked 50 countries and it ranked the higher education system. It ranked the whole system of the country. Yeah? And they look at 4 criteria, resources, as you can see here. Resources actually measure the government expenditure on higher education, investments in research and development in higher education. The next criteria is environment. This measures the qualitative assessment of policy and regulatory environment in that country in support of higher education. The third criteria is connectivity. This measures the collaboration globally and also with industry and international student enrollment in that country, for the whole country. And the fourth criteria is looking at the output, in terms of research output, institution rankings, enrollment, employability of graduates, and so on and so forth. So these 4 criteria are measured together and each country is given an overall ranking. So if you look at Malaysia, overall we are ranked number 28. So we are like in the second half of the 50 countries, yeah? So we should try actually to be in the top 25 at least, yeah. But if we look at the resources, this shows the commitment of the country in putting in the amount, government expenditure, investments in R&D. Malaysia is ranked number 17. So that is quite high, yeah, compared to, let's say, Thailand, number 49. In fact, UK is 13. I mean, quite close to Malaysia of 17. Yeah. But when we were doing the blueprint, when we look at this ranking, we compared the resources versus the output. Now, when we look at the output, sorry about that, Malaysia is ranked number 45 out of 50. You know, we put in so much and yet we are ranked 45. Now, if you look at the UK, they are number 13 in terms of resources. In terms of output, they are ranked number 2. You know, so when we were developing the blueprint, we were like concerned. How is that, you know, it's as if we are not getting the value for money. Yeah. So we were very concerned that we feel that we need to improve our output, our productivity, and so on and so forth. So if we look at, you know, Thailand is ranked output number 48 below us, but their resources is number 49, you know. So we were quite concerned there. So when we were developing the blueprint, then we were saying like, we have to look at our productivity, you know, because in terms of investment resources, Alhamdulillah, our government is very committed in investing in higher education. Yeah. So therefore, in developing the blueprint, then one of the shifts that we concentrated on is financial sustainability. Yeah. But shift number one, we have put there our graduates. We want our graduates to be holistic, entrepreneurial, and balanced graduates. And the outcome, learner values driven talent. So one of the shifts, so we're talking about shift, yeah. We want to shift, and that is the financial sustainability. So this is what I'm concentrating on today. All right. So when we talk about being financially sustainable, so in our case, as a person, ourselves, you know, as a person, we know that in order to be financially sustainable, we have to make sure that we have the income, right? And we have to manage our cost. Then we can be financially sustainable. So that is what this is about. So this shift number 5 are looking at these two, income aspect and the cost aspect. So today I just pick up one initiative from shift number 5. There are a number of initiatives that are laid down in shift number 5. So I'm looking at how can public universities get higher income, or you know, manage to secure higher income and also be more cost efficient. All right. So when we talk about getting higher income, we know that universities or public universities get government grants. We get operating budget for our operating expenditure, and we also have tuition fees, yeah, from the students. But the portion from tuition fees is quite small, actually, I think, as we all understand, because the fees at public universities are quite low. Yeah. So universities are expected or have actually been generating their own income, and the main sources would be from commercial activities, research grants, and we have started, you know, looking into and setting up endowment and also wakaf. Yeah. So these are some of the sources of income for public universities. When we talk about being cost efficient, we talk about academic productivity. Yeah. Are we being productive? And the cost of graduating a student. How much does it cost to graduate a student from a public university in Malaysia? So these are the two angles that we look at, yeah, when we talk about financial sustainability, income, and cost efficient. All right. So after we have come up or developed the blueprint, in order to implement all the initiatives, we came up with what is called the playbooks. So when I say we came up, because I was at the ministry at that time, and my office was the program management office, yeah, was in charge of implementing, monitoring the implementation of the blueprint. So to help universities to transform, we come up with what is called University Transformation Program. And in that University Transformation Program, we came up with playbooks. You know, people are asking, why do we call it playbooks? It's as if, are we in kindergarten, you know, doing some playing? Well, I think it's a term that is commonly used in the US, especially, you know, you have sports, for example, football, and everybody needs to know what they need to do, what their roles and responsibilities are, and work together to win the game. So that is the playbook for any sports. So for University Transformation Program, we also came up with playbooks. We came up with 4 playbooks. So I'm going to share with you 2 today that are relevant to our discussion today. One is the UniTP Purple Book. UniTP stands for University Transformation Program, Purple Book, and we chose the color purple because the highest denomination of Malaysia currency is the 100 ringgit, and its color is purple in color. All right. So the title of this playbook is Enhancing University Income Generation, Endowment, and Wakaf. So in this playbook, it discusses how university can use commercial activities, how they can improve grant acquisitions from ministries, international grants. So in the playbook, it laid down, it gives a step-by-step guide on how universities can be involved in commercial activities and acquire grants. It also gives a step-by-step, you know, hand-holding direction or guideline in terms of how to enhance endowment, and also how to develop sustainable wakaf at public universities, how to have a governance structure for wakaf, what are um, the you know, how to approach the you know, the Islamic State Council in order to set up wakaf at university. And in order to have good endowment and sustainable wakaf, the book actually listed down what are some of the steps that you have to go through in order to get people to put in money for our endowment and also wakaf. So that was the 4 steps in the Purple Book: philanthropic, income, and fundraising activities. So this book laid down step by step of what to do so that universities can actually improve their income generation. Okay. And one of the things that the target is that currently this is where universities are. You know, universities receive development budget from the government, operating budget from the government. So these are the sources of income. And like I mentioned just now, the tuition fees, and then wakaf, endowment, and also commercial activities and grants. So in the future, we would like to actually see an increase in this endowment, wakaf, you know. For tuition fees, we are not counting too much on that increase in tuition fees because it's difficult to do that, yeah. But we can increase tuition fees for, let's say, postgraduate programs or international for international students. So it's quite limited there. So we wanted, you know, for universities to enhance the wakaf and endowment, and to some extent the commercial activities and grants. Yeah. Now, in the blueprint, and also it look at the operating budget here. And currently, the way that the operating budget is distributed to the universities. All right, the Ministry of Finance will distribute budget to the ministries. So our ministry, Ministry of Higher Education, will then distribute it to all the entities under it. So the way that the budget is distributed is usually based on the budget request from each university. So even though MOF has what is called outcome-based budgeting, where they look at the achievement of KPIs, but the distribution of the budget is not actually depending upon the achievement of the KPI, not at this moment. So what was suggested in the blueprint was that this budget uh, is distributed to the public universities based on input based and also performance based. Input based meaning that it is based on how much does it cost to support one student multiplied by the number of students. All right. So the more number of students you have, the bigger the budget, and also based on performance. So these are what the plan is in the blueprint. Okay. So here, uh, explaining this part of the income, input-based funding, is linked to the number of students and is differentiated based on qualification, for example, undergrad versus postgrad. So you need to know how much it costs to actually support a student, right? And the type of program, because a student in engineering versus student in social science, the cost will be different. Um, and performance funding here is based on priority outcomes. For example, um, to get the percentage of achievement of KPI, we can look at the completion rate, the graduation rate, yeah, and also we need to look at the institutional mission, because in Malaysia public universities we have research universities, we have MTON, the Malaysia Technological Universities, we have the Malaysia Comprehensive Universities, we have the Malaysia Focus Universities, and also the Malaysia Islamic universities. So maybe the budget that is given to these universities would be different also based on their mission, all right? And performance also include special initiatives, for example, national priorities, low-income students, and for example, UiTM, we have the MDAB, so all those things should be taken into account under performance base when government are distributing operating budget to the university. So these are suggestions, yeah? Um, okay, and in order to do that, for example, in order to look at um, how much it is to graduate a student, and as I mentioned just now, to be financially sustainable, we look at the income. Now we are going to look at how to be cost efficient. All right. So we're talking about academic productivity and cost efficiency. And we also have a book for it, a playbook. It's called Enhancing Academic Productivity and Cost Efficiency, UniTP Silver book. So in this book, it talks about academic productivity. As we know, academic productivity is quite wide. Yeah. We have the teaching, we have research, we have student activities and so on and so forth. But in this case, we concentrate on whether students are graduating on time, because this is the thing that really affect the financial aspect of the productivity. All right. So this book talk about improving academic productivity by increasing the intake graduation on time and optimizing cost per full-time student equivalent. Because at the end of the day, when the university wants to be cost efficient, they need to look at how much does it cost to graduate a student. Okay, how much does it cost to graduate a student? And the two levers that affect how much it costs to graduate a student is the cost per student itself, all right, the annual cost per student itself, and also the length of time that the student is in the university. So the longer they are in the university, when we design our curriculum so that the student can finish in 4 years, but they are taking 5 to 6 years to finish, then that is not efficient. Yeah. So that is why we have that GOT, graduation on time. Okay. And then how this book then discuss how the public university can strengthen its institutional foundation to transform productivity. So it's all in this book. All right. So just to share with you some of the suggestion. For example, because these are the two levers that will affect the cost of graduating a student. One is the graduation on time. So what can university do to improve the graduation on time? Yeah. So they can optimize curriculum design, they can reduce non-productive credits. They can also apply support measures for students. And under optimized curriculum design, the Silver Book discussed these are some of the ways that they can optimize, or we university can optimize curriculum design. For example, we can offer more broad-based programs, allow institutional and program requirements to be taken concurrently. This is, for example, requirement for English language, requirement for Arabic, for example. Students should be allowed to take those together with academic programs rather than wait until they finish, let's say English requirement, Arabic requirement, then only take academic requirements. Yeah, so these are some suggestions in there. Allow students to complete unavailable classes at other universities. For example, if the class is offered only once a year, so the student cannot graduate because they have to wait for another year. So why not let them take the course at another university and transfer the credit? So these are some. I'm not going to go into detail. These are the suggestions in the Silver Book, and it discuss each of these item in detail. All right. Similarly, how do we improve annual cost per FTSE? FTSE stands for full-time student equivalent. We need to know how many number of students in the university. So because we have full-time and part-time students, so one full-time student is equivalent to 3 part-time students. That's the measurement that we chose. Yeah. All right. All right. Yani, this one is how to improve intake graduation on time. Yeah. So as I was mentioning, optimize curriculum design. We can offer more broad-based program, allow institutional and program requirement to be taken concurrently, allow students to complete unavailable classes at other universities. Yeah. So these are very good suggestions, and universities are actually doing many of these already. Yeah, so if there are some that we can still use. For example, I really like this suggestion: reduce non-productive credits. What we can do to improve our GOT is to implement competency-based instruction and progression. Yeah, so this is where students are given flexibility to repeat a course. Let's say they fail a course, they are given flexibility to focus on the competency aspect or program outcome that they fail only, rather than taking the whole course, So these are some advanced suggestion that universities can actually think about. Yeah. The Silver Book actually discussed this in detail, so you can read this. And similarly, this is improving annual cost per student, FPSE, full-time student equivalent. This actually, when we talk about cost, our university has what is called instructional cost, and then non-instructional cost. So we from the term we understand already, like instructional cost is something that really relate, right, to the instruction, the instructional process in our university. So that is very important. And how we can optimize that is that we can redesign individual delivery levels. So now, due to the COVID-19, we have become very familiar with online learning, using online materials to support our teaching and learning process, and so on and so forth. Yeah, redesign administrative processes and structures, and optimize procurement of instructional inputs. This is very relevant to the health science. They were talking at that time about universities, let's say, where they have medical programs and they have to secure supplies. So rather than one university buying each individually, they were talking about having a consortium and buying medical supplies for all universities in a bulk, so that they can get better pricing. Yeah. So these are some of the things that universities were talking about. So I don't know whether that has been fully implemented or not. But these are discussed in the Silver Book. Yeah. All right, so coming back, so those were the planning and the blueprint, and we came up with the playbooks to support the implementation of the university transformation program. And the ministry need also continuous um, analysis, um, for all those initiatives. So what they have done is that the Accounting Research Institute was given a research grant by the Ministry of Higher Education to analyze the financial performance of public universities in Malaysia. So when I talk about just now that in order to be financially sustainable, universities have to look at getting higher income and also be more cost efficient. So at ARI now we got this project to actually evaluate whether or not that is happening. So we look at the income aspect of the university, and we analyze their balance sheet items. We look at the university's cash and cash equivalents balance. We look at the asset, liability, and the kumpulan wang. Kumpulan wang is equity. So all this information are actually publicly available in their annual report. So when we look at that, we found that yes, universities have cash and cash equivalents, a high amount, but they are all spoken for. There is already a commitment to those cash and cash equivalents. So sometimes when outsiders, laymen, they take an annual report of public university, and they just say, oh look, universities have a lot of cash and cash equivalents, and the equity is very big. There are millions. Well, to some extent, we do not want cash to be stuck in universities, but a lot of those cash and cash equivalents are actually spoken for. Because, for example, for emoluments, university have to pay a lot of expenses for emoluments. Yeah? And we, at RE, in this research, we also look at the income and whether the university is, having a net profit or net loss. If the university is a profit organization, it's profit or loss. So here, whether they have net income or deficit. So we analyze the performance from the years 2015 to 2018, right? So I'm not going to share with you the results here, yeah, because we have yet to finish the project. And in fact, this Friday we are going to present the findings to the ministry. But universities overall, because if you were to look at the annual report, universities are experiencing deficit, yeah, meaning the expenditure is more than the revenue for the last couple of years. All right, so a number of universities are in that situation. And we also analyze the sources of revenue, because universities are supposed to generate their own income, and then a certain percentage from their own income, and then they expect that the rest will be covered by government grants and also tuition fees. Yeah, so we look at that as well, and then we also look at the expenses item. Which item is the highest in terms of expenses? All right, so usually it's emolument, and other expenses are also quite high. For example, depreciation, yeah, because and also maintenance, because public universities have a lot of buildings. If old buildings, then the cost is for maintenance. If new buildings, then there will be the depreciation expense. Yeah. So we analyze those, and we share our findings with the ministry. Um, in the same project, Ari was also asked to refine the calculation of cost per student. Yeah, I'm almost running out of time, but basically, um, in order to improve the cost, universities need to know how much is cost per student. So what we did was we came up with this framework, we refined it. Yeah, this framework was developed when I was at the ministry. We worked with a um, consultant. So now Ari has refined this. So at the end of the day, we want to find what is the instructional cost, non-instructional cost, and R&D cost for each of the discipline: health science, science and technology, social science, for undergrad and also postgraduate. Yeah. So in order to do that, we came up with operational definition of what total university operating expenditure mean. And before we go into instructional, non-instructional R&D costs, actually we request that the university decide first whether they have non-attributable costs. Now, non-attributable costs is costs that actually do not relate at all to teaching and learning. Yeah, so take that out. So if you want to improve, try and improve, reduce this cost. And then we have attributable costs. This one relate to teaching and learning, but we have what is called administrative costs, academic costs. So try as much as possible to be efficient here, yeah, productivity. And in the academic course, then we have the instructional, non-instructional. Now here, non-instructional, for example, if we have an assistant registrar who is attached to the faculty. So even though that person is an administrator, but because it relates so closely to the instructional aspect, academic course, so we put it under academic course but non-instructional. So they are still part of that. So this will become the cost per student for the university. Yeah. And last but not least, in the same project, ARI is also asked to refine the budget allocation framework. So we are going to use that cost per student information just now and suggest to the ministry that we allocate budget based on the cost per student and also based on performance, okay, achievement in KPI, or if they have special initiatives, or if they have innovation incentive. So we are going to do a simulation to show the ministry how much the budget will be different if they use the current method versus if they use our method here, our model. Yeah, right. And then, okay, that is what ARI is doing. And last but not least, because we are already out of time, we would like to allocate some time for question and answer. Yeah, Dr. Siti Hajar. So the post-COVID, because this is a very challenging time, yeah? Financial sustainability post-COVID era. But we have challenges, but we actually also have opportunities. Okay, so when we talk about income generation, of course it will become more challenging to get that additional income from commercial activities, from research grant. But there's also opportunities because now there are more grants that are being offered to look at what is the impact of COVID-19, isn't it? So that's an opportunity there. And then in terms of international students, they won't be able to come physically, but they are still wanting to learn. And I think eventually they will be able to come, but I'm sure they will be choosing countries that are not very severe in terms of the effect because COVID-19 is still out there. Yeah. So the severity of COVID-19 in the Western countries could provide an opportunity for us. So we could actually play on that and recruit many international students, postgraduate for UiTM to come to Malaysia. Yeah? And then wakaf and endowment. You know, charity begins at home because we always thought that when we talk about wakaf and endowment, we always think about going out there to get people to invest, to give wakaf and endowment to us. But one interesting thing that when I listened to the talk by Datuk Sri Dr. Zaini Ujang, he was talking about why don't we start inside, okay? We as individuals in the institution, you know, how much are we willing to, let's say, take from our pay each month to put in our wakaf and endowment for UiTM, okay? Because like he pointed out, if we as the warga UiTM, for example, manage to really collect or put forth wakaf endowment and the bulk of the money came from us, if we go outside, we can actually sell it to them to say that, look, we have put in this much, okay? And I think that will encourage people more to put into our wakaf and endowment. So maybe we should encourage that internally, yeah, wakaf and endowment. And efficiency, when we talk about efficiency just now, productivity, in our strategic plan, UiTM strategic plan, we talk about agile governance. You know, how do we improve our processes so that we can be more cost efficient and higher academic productivity, the IGOT just now, graduation on time. Our postgraduate PhD students being able to, have their viva and everything within 6 weeks after we send out to the examiner, the process? Is it still taking them a year, and those kind of things. So this is some things that we can still think about, in terms of financial sustainability. All right. So these are some contact information if people would like to contact me or for anything. Yeah. So with that, I end my presentation, Dr. Hajar. Yeah, thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you, Dr. Norhayati. So I open now for question and answer sessions. Before that, we have one question from Professor Dr. Norma at chat box. What is the best and workable wakaf model for income generations for universities?
Asking me.
Yeah, asking. Yeah,
That's my boss.
I know.
Yeah. Actually, as I've mentioned just now, I think during Cik Nur Hazwani, you are presenting again, yeah. But all right. Actually, when we talk about wakaf and endowment, during that MCO, PKP, we really have a lot of time to reflect. Yeah. So I think each institution should focus internally first. Internally, uh, to say that we contribute to the wakaf and endowment. And at the same time, we have to have a good governance system, because in wakaf, we need to deal a lot with the State Islamic Religious Council. They are, the caretaker of wakaf. So meaning that being the caretaker, they are very strict, in terms of how, whether allowing universities to actually be the amil or be able to collect wakaf or even zakat. Yeah. So, and they want to see this governance structure. So universities, I think we focus on ourselves. During the COVID, we really thought of self-reflection and how we can help one another. And we know that many people out there are in a very, uncertain state. So that philanthropic activity happened quite a lot, I think, during the MCO. Yeah, so we can leverage on that. Um, and the concept of sedekah, how if we give one, we'll get 10 in return. Yeah, so we need to put that in place. And the governance structure is very important. And last but not least is that universities actually must have, um, again, a formalized way to actually improve endowment, wakaf, and also other income generation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the suggestion that we gave under the Jatuh Kuasa Kajian Dasar Pendidikan Negara.
Okay, we have another question from chat, Doctor.
Hmm.
Prof, from Johanna Abdullah Jafar. Prof, is the blue playbook will be launched soon?
Wow, this is inside information in Blue Book. Yeah. That one we have to talk to the ministry, because it's not in the hand of the ministry, and ARI actually has improved quite a number of things in the Blue Book. So that is something that we need to broach to the ministry lah, whether they are going to launch that book. ARI has improved in terms of the cost allocation framework, but there are other things in there that is not part of the ARI's project. For example, um, the presentation of financial report. It is in the Blue Book. And ARI actually, when we were doing our analysis, we found that the presentation, the inconsistency of presentation of financial report is there. So it need to be addressed as well. And in fact, the Blue Book has already addressed that. So thank you for pointing that out. That is something that we have to bring up with the Ministry of Higher Education, yeah, whether they want to launch it or not.
Okay, any questions from the participant? You can on your mic and ask questions to Prof. Oh, we have another one from Zainal Kifli Abdul Razak. Prof, do you think that online distance learning will save a lot of operational costs?
Okay. Could someone switch on the mic? Okay, all right. Okay. Online distance learning. Uh, okay. We could save in terms of, let's say, operating expenditure, the electricity, less conditioning, and so on and so forth. But in order to make it work well, there must be that investment again. Yeah, because as you can see now, doing this online, I still have to do it from home, which is a better scenario, because of the facilities and so on and so forth. So the investment is there. And I think when we want to evaluate whether we can be more cost efficient, we need to also look at the qualitative aspect of it. Are students actually learning better from online learning? Because all this while, our online learning, we use it for blended learning. Is to support our delivery. Yeah. And our curriculum is not designed for full online learning. So if we want to go for full online learning, we have to relook at our curriculum, you know. So in terms of being cost efficient, um, in terms of electricity and things like that, maybe, yeah, but in the long run, maybe, but cost efficiency is not the only thing that we have to look at when we want to decide whether online learning is something that we will go for. Yeah, full online learning. We're talking about full online learning. So cost efficiency would not be the only thing that we need to look at.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. So we have another question from chat, from Farida Abdul Razak. Does the research make known to UiTM management, such as bursary as well?
Okay, very good question. Uh, Actually, we have finished our objective number one, which is evaluating the financial performance of universities. We have shared it not only with UiTM, but with 16 other universities. So we went to visit them and we shared the results that we found. And this result is where we analyzed the financial report. Yeah. So for UiTM, yes, we have presented to the top management. And the Bursa or the Bendahari of all UAs are really with us in terms of we really have to get their buy-in. We really have to get their input in order to get that financial information and also to get the tacit knowledge. Yeah. So we share it with top management of universities and especially the Bendahari. Yes.
Okay, we have another one from Johanna. For the income diversification through the monetizations of assets, do you think this will be the most workable strategy for alternative income generation? Wow.
Thank you. Very, very good question.
Yeah.
So far, um, so far, it has not been the main one lah so far. And we have also discussed this at the ministry level because when you want to monetize the asset, you have to own the asset. Yeah. Monetization of asset, for example, if we rent out our facilities, that one, I think all universities have been doing that very well. Yeah. Um, Using our facilities for other purposes, renting it out. But once you need to like build something, you need to use your land and everything, or then you have to get permission because the land of the university's land are owned by the federal government. Yeah. So who is the owner of the land? So there's still some issue there, because therefore universities, if they want to use the asset of the university, for example, develop a building, a portion of the university, they must submit a proposal that is very strong, yeah, to the government, the ministry. So we have heard from both sides. Universities are saying that there are so many red tapes, yeah? But from the ministry side, they're saying that we are very concerned if the proposal that the university is proposing is not strong enough, because they don't want the proposal to be a high risk proposal. Yeah? So in other words, university must have a very solid proposal that can really address the risk of the initiative, uh, and can show that the proposal or the initiative can bring in income, low risk, you know, and the payback period is not too long, and and apply all those other quantitative measures, for example, the rate of return, the internal rate of return of the project, you know, risk assessment, and so on and so forth. So that's what we heard from the side of the Ministry of Finance, for example. Yeah, when they want to evaluate proposal from the university, they really focus on that. So if the proposal is not strong enough, then they cannot support. And that becomes like a red tape, you know, that is difficult from the university's point of view. So I think both sides have to make it balanced lah. Yeah.
Okay, there are another questions. What about the private fund campus affect universities? What
You
about the
mean
private?
the PFI, Private Finance Initiative campuses?
Maybe they're talking
PFI, yeah.
campus, yeah. Yes.
Yes, okay. Yes, the expenditure for the campus is quite high. For example, UiTM has like what, 13 campuses, you know, or PFI, of various sizes, you know. But one of it, our ILD is also a PFI, yeah. Uh, so so going back to the history of it, the PFI campuses, because before this, when campuses for universities are built, is from the development budget. You know, government put in the money and so on and so forth. So the PFI is a tripartite engagement, where you have the financier who puts in the money, and the developer who build it, and then you have the what we call it, the maintenance aspect. Yeah, these three party together, and we are sort of like renting, so we pay rent. So in other words, government have to pay the three parties here. Yeah, so once the finance, once the building is completed, then pay the rent is for the maintenance, and the cost is quite high. Yeah, and so when we were analyzing it, the cost of PFI, because when the government give budget to the university, it's either from the operating budget or the development budget. Yeah? So at the beginning, the budget for PFI was included as part of the operating budget. So in other words, you have this much certain amount of percentage of operating budget, and suddenly we are using operating budget to pay for development expenditure. Yeah. Uh, the government now has sort of shifted and put that under the development budget, so that it doesn't affect our operating budget here. Because operating budget, we need to use it for emolument, we need to use it for teaching and learning, you know, running the campus, and so on and so forth. Yes, the PFI is actually a big chunk lah of the cost, especially if we were to look at it from the operating budget aspect. Yeah. So now they are trying to move it to the development budget.
Okay, Doctor. A third question from Johanna. Can you share the result of your research as mentioned earlier to the outsider, or is there
Yeah.
any publications?
The one that we are currently doing, yeah.
Ah.
That one, once we give it to the ministry, it will be up to the ministry. Yeah, we may be able to share on our part, maybe the framework, you know, because if you want to write papers and things like that, the framework, because, you know, But which the results, most probably we can share it with the top management of universities, but I do not know whether the ministry will make it a public document.
Okay. Last, I can allow another one questions only. Okay, the 11. Another question. Last questions. Okay, from Dr. Shah Suzan Zakaria. Prof, your opinion when the government cut budget or allocation to university, what will happen? Any risk measurement has been done, or how the university risk management practices could deal with these issues?
Okay. Yeah. Actually, this has been foreseen many, many years ago. Yeah. When we first became a separate ministry in 2004, in fact, that was like 16 years ago, and we had our strategic planning document, Plan Strategik Pengajian Tinggi Negara. It's already stated in there that university has to start thinking about own income generation, and a target was already given. So in fact, like the research universities were given a target that they must generate 25% of their operating expenditure from their own income generation. Other universities, 15%. All right. Um, so universities have seen this, but of course, if you are your KPI is to generate 25% of your operating expenditure from your own income, you expect that the government would give the other 75%. Yeah, but some universities that has not happened. So that's why our third objective came in. How do government actually distribute the budget? Because the amount is that much. It's not going to change the total for the total wise. But how does government give to University A, University B? Because sometimes University A gets more than University B, you know, or B gets more than C. And then suddenly University F gets very little. Or suddenly University G, because we have 20 universities, gets so much, you know. So that is where the input-based funding and performance-based funding come in. So to see whether or not the government budget can be distributed in a more equitable manner. Yeah. But again, the budget cut is there, and higher income, cost efficiency. So yes, if income is a factor, we also need to look at the cost efficiency just now. Yeah. So we need to look at the cost that we identified just now. The non-attributable costs, administrative costs. Maybe there is something that we can perform a deep dive to see how we can be more cost efficient, right? Because definitely, especially because of the COVID-19, the budget is going to be affected. So we have to brace ourselves for that.
Yes. So I think that's it. For our last questions, or I can open for another one questions. All right. We will share the recording. And we will let all knows. And then actually when doctor, when you are presenting your slide, I was googling the silver book. On the and then I think this is the time we relook back our Malaysia education blueprint for higher education.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Because it was from 2015 to 2025, and now we are actually have another 5 years. I think it's not too late for UiTM or for us to relook back at all the time shift that been in the blueprint, and it's a very good I think reminder from you, Prof. Actually, to us, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's a very good document, and
yes.
if there are some changes, it's just the initiatives. Right?
Yeah, correct.
Some initiatives may change, but the basic principle of it is relevant.
Yes, because when I look at the 9 and 10 shift, it's actually talking about transform the HE delivery, globalize online learning. Now we are going quick because of the COVID. This is what we call this kita kata blessing in disguise, isn't it? So we are
Yes.
go through to it, but I think we should relook back when the faculties or institute in UiTM do our strategic planning, make this Malaysian education blueprint as our kita punya panduan, betul kan?
Yes.
Betul? Yes, and it's very good actually document talking about silver book, purple book. So I think we have a very good sharing today, Dr. Prof.
So
And
if I
then
may, there are two more books, yeah. The orange book yang UiTM ada 4 track kita punya promotion dan kita punya ATP 4 track tu, it's all in the orange book.
Orange book, and online kan kita available from MOE punya.
Sebab sekarang the ministry baru split kan. If you try, I don't know whether you can get it.
Ada. I was googling, ada, semua ada.
Okay.
So I think everybody kalau nak tengok all these colourful books is usually online, and I think my sincere appreciations and thank you for the fruitful sessions, and we will share the recording later after this, and then thank you, Doctor. I think I end the sessions for today. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and thank you to you again and Ari, and we will see for our next webinar sessions. Okay,
thank you very much, Dr. Siti Hajar, and also to the TNCPI office. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Okay.
And thank you everyone for joining.
Yes, thank you all the participants also.
Thank you
very much.
Yes.